Great stuff. So first of all, welcome. We've got, I think, 50 people now dialed in, which is an amazing turnout for our first Fountain Pens event for Christmas 2021. I'm Jim. I'm one of the admins. Also on the call from Fountain Pens UK. I think we've got most of the admins on. I think Steph's in there, Hayes is there, Perva's there. I think Rob is joining us pretty shortly. Is Ed around as well, I think? So I think most of the admin group here, and we'd just like to say thank you so much for joining us all, and we really hope you enjoy the next couple of weeks. We've got a pretty cool 14 days of Christmas lined up right the way through till 23rd, so Christmas Eve, with events on every single night of that 2-week period. It's taken us about 4 months of planning to put this all together, so there's a lot been invested from our side. There's some amazing competitions and prizes, and you'll hear more about that a bit later on. Tonight's speaker, Ben Walsh, I'll come back to in a moment, just to talk you through the programme for the next 2 weeks. So tonight we've got Ben Walsh from Gravitas Pens. Ben is our sponsor for this evening. So we're very grateful to him for sponsoring some of these events and helping support some of the prizes and things that we're doing. He's always been incredibly generous to FP UK and to FP UK members. So if you don't know him, I think by the end of this talk, if you don't want to buy one of his pens, then frankly, you'll need your head looking at. And yeah, I really hope you enjoy his talk. Tomorrow we're being joined by Camille Yanong, who is a long-time member of the fountain pen community and a really great photographer and calligraphy writer as well. And her talk is going to focus predominantly around how she does calligraphy, different styles, different techniques, and probably how to capture some of that on camera as well. And we're really grateful for that. The 12th of December, we've got Sunil Malkani, who some of you will know is the man behind the Good Blue Flex pens. So another producer who's producing really driving technology forwards in the world of fountain pens and trying out clever new stuff. Then on the 13th of December, we've got Ruth Bolton. So she's taking us almost back in time to look at the traditional Japanese craft of urushi lacquering and how she does that on her pens. She trained in Japan for many, many years in all the different styles of urushi and is now running an urushi-based lacquering business in the Northeast. And again, some of us have been lucky enough to try out some of her pens, and they are very impressive bits of kit. On the 14th, we've got Roy from Izodds, who will spend an evening chatting to us about prestige pens and how one designs them, and give us a bit of his insight from the Paradigm project that many of us will have enjoyed using over the last year or two. On the 15th, if I've got this right, is then Hayes talking about how to identify vintage pens. So we're then going from kind of prestige pens to beautiful vintage pens, how to identify them, how to use them, and all that kind of stuff. So that'd be very cool. The 16th is then Dolly Garland, who's doing journaling for well-being. So Dolly is a essentially professional well-being coach and uses journaling as a major part of her therapy and does incredible stuff with well-being and journaling. So that'll be a really great talk as well. We're up to 17th. We have Salvatore Matroni, who many of you will know is the man behind Leonardo pens, amongst many other brands. Is an outstanding Italian pen craftsman, really kind of a big hitting celebrity in the world of fountain pens. So he'll be doing an amazing talk about Leonardo and Delta and other Italian pen groups. The 18th of December, we've then got Edmund Terakopian, who is a UK and internationally award-winning documentary and journalist photographer. And he'll be talking to us a lot about how to use normal photographic equipment to capture the beauty of your writing in your pens. And that's going to be a really great chat. The 19th, Apurva is going to talk to us again. It's a bit more of a well-being focused one about the fountain pen challenge, how she came up with it, how it works, what she's gotten out of it, and a bit more about that. And we'll probably also talk about flex nib pens, because for Apurva not to talk about flexible nibs probably isn't, you know, that's just a thing, isn't it? They go hand in hand. So that takes us up to the 20th, which is the Christmas week. On Monday the 20th, we've then got kind of a general chat evening. So that will be kind of a Christmas party style night with lots of prizes being given away and just a general fountain pen meetup. So bring your Christmas hats, bring your Christmas jumpers, bring your pens. We'll do lots of show and tell and swatching, and that will just be a general social. The 21st of December, we then have Lucas Street, who does some amazing stuff with fountain pen art and computer design, talking to us about art and fountain pens. The 22nd of December, we then have Michael Owen from UK pen shows. So many of you go to pen shows regularly. I went to my first one this year in September and thought it was just amazing. And so Michael's one of the 3 people behind UK pen shows, and is going to talk to us about his experience of running pen shows and some top tips on how to survive a pen show. And then on the 23rd, those of you that remember last year's 14 Days of Christmas, Scribble did an absolutely brilliant Christmas quiz, so he's reviving that for us, and we're doing an amazing Christmas quiz on 23rd with, again, some fairly big prizes and some chat and just a bit of a fun evening. So that is the program for the 14 days. In terms of tonight's speaker then, so for those of you who don't know Ben, Ben is based in Dublin, in Ireland. He's an interesting guy. He graduated from the Dublin Institute of Technology in 2015 with a master's in interior design and furniture making. And initially started his career actually in cabinet making, but has had a thing for fountain pens since childhood, as far as I know. One of our early discussions, probably 18 months back, he mentioned about his earliest memories being sort of really from early childhood and seeing his parents using fountain pens as well. His first adventure in pens was actually not fountains pens, but it was using material science to push where you can go with pens. So he's got a particular interest in concrete as a material that can be used for all kinds of applications beyond building sites. And we're going to see some of that this evening. And it was actually his concrete pen, which was initially on Kickstarter and then self-backed, that then provided the funding and the impetus to launch Gravitas in early 2020. Many of us on the group own his flagship pens, which are frankly beautiful, high precision metal pens. They are outstanding works of art, frankly. His whole thing, I think, is about precision and about pushing technology. So Ben has done loads of work about precision machining, about the precision of the design process, about how pens fit together as precise instruments to deliver writing, and also how you use materials to deliver the ink to the paper as well. So in terms of the feeds, the coatings, the nib technology, and he's pushing those things over the next few months as well. So this is very much, tonight's talk is very much showing what you can do with concrete, but also looking at some of the technology that he gets into his pens, including sort of laser fiber lasers and metalwork and so on. So Ben, thank you very much for sponsoring tonight. I'm going to hand over to you. Can everyone see and hear him? I'm going to put you on spotlight.
Hello. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Thanks so much for joining tonight.
So from the beginning, when I first started pens, as you know, I made concrete pens, and everybody's always wondered how I've actually done it. And I've always kept it pretty secretive as to how it's done. But tonight I decided that I'd show you a bit of the secrets that I've never really shown anybody. And I'll be taking any questions. So if you have any questions at all about what I do and how I do it, now's your chance to ask me. But I'll do a demonstration of how I do what I do. But before that, if you want to ask me the questions, I'll answer them, and then I'll go through the machining of how it's done with the tooling and whatnot. So who has any questions?
I've got a question.
Yeah, fire away.
What made you decide on concrete in the first place? What brought you to that place? What had you done with it previously?
So I didn't actually have any experience with concrete. The reason I wanted to use it was originally in furniture. So a lot of the students in my class were using wood, and I wanted to use a different material and something that was a bit more cost effective, and that was concrete. But the reason why I use it in pens is because my dad thought I was a bit of an idiot for using concrete in the first place, and to kind of get his approval, I decided to make something out of concrete that he understood, and he collected pens. And and he didn't agree with me using the concrete, so I decided to make a pen out of concrete so he would understand, and that's how I began my journey into concrete pens. It was basically to get my dad's approval.
And did you?
Yeah, towards the end, eventually, it took me a year to figure it out, but when I did figure it out, I got his approval, and it's something that we talk about all the time, about my designs and how I'm going. How's my journey going into fountain pens? We always talk now.
Excellent, thank you.
And there's a question from the chat. There's actually loads. There's loads of love for you on the chat already as well. We've got Russell Simpson. Have you got any plans to make concrete fountain pens?
I do. So the way I make my fountain pen, well, any fountain pen I've ever made is on the lathe. And the problem with making a fountain pen, it has to be closed at the end. This is actually a body that I've made for a fountain pen, but the weight, it's too heavy at the back. So I've not done it yet because I've not been able to get the weight right. So the way that I'm going to make a concrete fountain pen is going to be completely different to this technique I'm going to show you today. But I do have big plans to do a concrete fountain pen in hopefully mid 2022.
Brilliant, thank you. Ros Howe says, have you got any custom pens? Have you done any custom pens for friends or family or Christmas presents, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I've done loads of custom pens. I do custom pens every few weeks or so. Sometimes I'll make it out of like strange materials. Like one of them here is this is pink. It's pink and red brick. So this is a custom pen job, and basically this was just a brick from the house that she grew up in. So when the house was demolished, they gave me a bit of the brick, and they asked me to put it into a pen and make a pink and brick pen. So I do get to make cool, interesting, fun stuff, and yeah, I do make a lot of custom pens.
And Usman Karim says, are there any completely out there materials that you want to work with as a successor to concrete?
I suppose I am kind of like moving into some polymers now, and I'm also using some very expensive jewelry grade metals like Mukame, Makamagane, and Damascus. So I am moving into different materials, and they're probably the most exotic ones at the moment.
And Joe wants to know what's been your most challenging material that you made a pen out of so far? What's been the most difficult thing you've used?
Damascus is the most challenging one at the moment. The first one that I've made recently, it was half successful. So that is going to be the most challenging material at the moment. It is the most challenging material, and it work hardens so quickly, and the acid etching is quite difficult as well. And it's actually hard to get the material in the quantities that I need as well. So there's a supply and demand is quite a challenge.
Yeah, I think we've spoken before about how difficult it is sometimes for you to get materials to work with. Talking about Damascus, actually, Mick McKigney, I'm sorry I missed your question the first time. Mick asks, how do you cope with machining such a hard material? Are there special techniques, I guess is what he means by that?
For machining hard materials like concrete, how do I cope with it?
I think so, yeah.
Well, I use a lot of, so the tooling that I use is tungsten carbide tips or diamond tip tooling. So depending on how hard the concrete is, if there's certain granites in it, if there's any quartz in it, I'd use the diamond tip tooling. But if it's a softer aggregate in the concrete, I can go softer with the carbide. So that's how I can handle putting this type of material. But I can only do about 25 pens a day because it's so tough on my hands. Concrete is quite acidic, so after a certain amount of time, it actually starts to wear my skin away. So it is quite tough to deal with. I literally have a limit before my hands start to break down.
I can imagine that must be really, really tough. A couple more questions, and then we'll let you get into a demo if you're happy with that.
Yeah.
Andrew says, Andrew says, I love the machining you get on your pens. Why do you keep the surface, and why do you think others polish the metal so hard?
Sorry, say that again.
So Andrew really likes the surface finish that you do on your pens, and is curious as why you keep the surface the way that you do, and why you think other people polish their pens so aggressively, the metal pen.
When you mean why do I keep the surface, which pen?
Andrew, do you want to unmute yourself?
Hiya, yeah, sorry, my camera isn't working, I'm afraid. But I love the tactile finish you get on the pens and also on the section. And everybody
Yes.
else seems to just polish away like fury. Just seems very strange.
I don't really like polished pens because there's
I don't either.
yeah, it's very hard to keep a polished pen perfect, and I kind of want my pens to be used, so I don't really want to do too many high polished pens because people are then afraid to get them scratched, and I want my pens to be used, and I don't want people to shy away from that. So that's why I don't really do polished pens. They're there to get damaged, and polished pens just don't handle that very well.
Yeah, I think we all agree, and I know a lot of people
I
find that
also find them very slippery.
Yeah, exactly that, exactly that. Last question, I think, for now. Gabriel says, when you're working in concrete, do you use a different material like metal to make the threads?
No, well, I don't do threads directly into the concrete. They wouldn't be able to hold the points. So I would have metal inserts. If there's ever any threads that need to be done, I would have it'd be metal on metal. It would never be concrete on metal or plastic on metal. So there would be a threaded insert. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. There are no other questions in the chat. If anyone else wants to unmute and ask questions, please do. But Ben, if you in the meantime want to show us get your demo started, I think we'd all love to see what you get up to.
Yeah. So it's probably going to be quite quick. It'll probably surprise you how quick I can turn a concrete pen down. So that'll be how quickly one pen is done. And I'll just do a green one.
Tell us about the actual original blank. So are the blanks ones that you cast yourself, and how do you get the color in, and a little bit about the material science behind it would be really interesting to hear.
So the type of concrete I use depends on the job. So different companies will specify what type of concrete they want their pens made from. And generally the type of concrete is a high performance concrete where there's a polymer added into the mix. So a lot of these pens would specify they're called polymer modified cements. So that's why I can do such interesting colors, and that's why they kind of come off almost like ribbons, because there's about 51% of the mix is actually polymer resin. There's a powdered polymer in an emulsion mix. So that's one of the secrets, I suppose, of how I can have it so strong and how I can have the colors so interesting. Did that answer the question?
I think it probably does. Yeah, I mean, I certainly never understood that you know, when I think of concrete, I certainly think concrete is going to be kind of a brittle, tough material, not something you can necessarily do fine craft with. Yeah, I think that's is quite impressive, really. So you've got this polymer that's, I guess, elasticy in nature, is it? Or
Yes, it's an acrylic polymer. It's called the brand is it's called Forton 7774. It's a well-known polymer in the industry. But sometimes companies will specify that they don't want any polymer in the mix. And that's a completely different type of pen to that would actually be out with an angle grinder and a diamond disc. I have to grind it down a different way. I can't use the carbide. I have to use diamond tip tooling for that.
and so are these polymers that are used in so in commerce or in building, or the you know, so these kind of polymer based concretes, where would we find them not in a pen? I guess one of the questions.
You'd find them in a lot of glass fiber reinforced concrete. So a lot of panels that are sprayed on the outside of buildings. It's a sprayed concrete. You might see huge, big, massive black paneled concrete buildings. They're made in a mold, and it has to be quite a flexible concrete. And that's where the technology kind of started, and I kind of robbed it from that industry.
I think it's really cool. It challenges certainly everything that I understand about building materials, for sure. We've got someone asking, so George Parapadikis is asking, do you buy in the blanks, or are you casting your own blanks for these?
No, I cast them myself. So I actually have quite a bit of experience in casting resins. I've worked with resins for easily 10 years now. I used to be a carpenter, and we used to have to mix our own epoxy resin glues, and we did a bit of work in polyester fiberglass shells, and we did a lot of work with epoxy resins as well. So I kind of got a experience through my job in resins, and that kind of helped further down the line when I decided to go into this industry. It kind of really did help with the concrete. I got a lot of help in learning this. So I got in touch with companies when I was a student asking, how do I do this? And some companies wouldn't help me, but there was other companies that did help me. So I learned a lot of this by simply just asking the right questions, and I'm pretty shameless like that. I'm not afraid to ask for help.
How does this compare to something like the Visconti Homo sapiens? I mean, that's the obvious kind of comparison, isn't it? Is another kind of stone-based pen? Is this a similar process, do we think, or is it quite different? I mean,
it'd be quite different. So that would be considered a composite. So if it's just a resin and a stone, that's a composite. So polymer modified concrete, there's actually a chemical reaction taking place with the cement and water. It's called hydration. So the binder, the acrylic binder, it just kind of gives it added elastic strength, but it's still a concrete reaction taking place. So it's not considered a composite. If there's not a plastic binder, it's a different concept altogether. If I was to completely have a resin instead of water, then that would be pretty similar to what Visconti is doing.
Okay, amazing. Andrew Chorley, I think you've got a question, Pen Friends.
Yeah. Are there any limitations to what you can do with this sort of polymer concrete mix? I mean, is there any materials which you can't really feed into it? To give you a bit of context, we have seen like diamond cast in the community, which has proven, pretty popular. Is there any sort of room to do anything which adds a bit of sparkle into the concrete, just to really highlight the texture? Or
yeah, you can put glass, you can put a broken glass into the mix, and then you can polish it back, and it can be quite sparkly. You can put different things into it, like anything that you can put into normal concrete can be put into this. There's certain materials that can't. They don't really stick to the concrete very well, like certain types of plastics or epoxy flakes. They don't work very well on this because it can spin off and spit in my face. So I kind of stick to the glass aggregates and that type of sparkly stuff. That's the only way I can really do it with this.
Some glass would be wonderful in the future if that's something which you can do. I think there's a lot of people in the fountain pen community which certainly like the Benu pens and the sparkles from Sailor. So if you could get some sparkles into some concrete, I think that would be a surefire winner for some people.
No, that's the plan.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
I think we all agree. There's some questions about the weight of these pens, and you know, and is it possible we can take this off the lathe and have a close up of it as well? Is that possible? People are quite keen to see what it looks like up close and to understand how much it weighs.
Yeah. So. Well. So this is the one I just turned there. Can you see that?
Just about, yeah. And so that becomes a devil stick of some kind, I'm presuming.
Yeah. We won't talk about what this.
We have to bring the elephant in the room, don't we?
Yes, I do make devil sticks as well.
So how would that differ from a fountain pen in terms of what you're doing with the actual blank and the turning process?
With fountain pens, generally it should be a closed end. You don't really want to have any open ends. If you do have open ends, it just makes things more complex. So yeah, it's the hardest to hold this piece on its own. It's very difficult to do. So I'm still perfecting the technique, but concrete fountain pens will be coming.
Amazing.
Definitely.
I think sparkly concrete fountain pens, you'll have a huge market for. You've got 55 people
Yeah.
doing at the moment, so for sure. What's your favorite pen to make? What's the thing that you most enjoy doing?
I'm actually quite enjoying a lot of the laser etching work that I'm getting to do. I am really perfecting the technique. I plan to get a new, at the moment, the laser that I have, I've kind of pretty much pushed it to its limits, and I'm going to be investing in some new technology to bring my laser etching game to the next level. I'm kind of excited to experiment with different materials as well. I'm starting to move into different types of polymers and bringing them into the pen world. So
That's
yeah,
right.
I'm excited to do that.
Is the laser something that you can show us this evening? Are you set up for laser demos tonight, or is that something we're not doing?
Yeah, I'll be doing a laser demo for you soon. Yeah.
Great.
I'm going to just turn one more pen real quick.
Yeah.
And then I'll move on to the next bit.
I don't know if your audio and mic will work while you're turning, but Josie says, have you ever considered using nylon gauze or thread to strengthen the thin walls? So essentially using kind of composites of concrete and mesh.
I don't use nylon. What I use is actually fiberglass mesh. So the type of mesh that you would use when you're filling the gaps in plasterboard walls. That actually works very well around the brass core to give it a bit more composite strength. So I actually already do that.
Oh, camera's gone backwards. There you go. Brilliant. That's very cool.
Once a pen is finished, roughly like this, it still has to be polished afterwards. So I actually polish them with sandpaper. And then the last bit would be with diamond plates. So I actually have to use the type of sharpening, diamond sharpening plates that you'd use to sharpen knives. So I actually use them to level out the concrete pens.
Amazing.
I would show you, but that's a very messy process.
That's okay. That's okay. I think one of the things that most people are really impressed by is just how much detail goes into your pens. Obviously, you and I talk quite regularly, and I'm aware of the amazing detail that goes into this stuff. But I think for most people, I think there's this genuine sense of goodness me, how precisely crafted these things are and how accurate they are. You know, that must present some challenges for you as well.
With how precise these are.
Mm. And how do you, and when you're doing it by hand, how do you keep such precision? Oh, I lost you.
Sorry, say that again there, Jim.
So with
I had a
the
phone call
concrete,
coming in.
that's okay. With the concrete pens that you're turning by hand, how do you keep them so precise? Because all your metal pens are based on these very, very refined design principles and extreme accuracy. But you're turning out those concrete pens by hand, and yet they seem to be identical each one.
Sorry, just give me 1 second. Someone's after calling me, and it just. There, can you hear me?
We can hear you, yeah.
Oh God. There we go. Sorry, can you say that question one more time?
Sure. So I think we noticed something quite interesting, which is obviously your metal pens are all based around very, very precise designs, and the precision and accuracy of what you do is absolutely at the heart for the metal pens. For the concrete pens, you're turning them by hand. So how do you keep that precision when you're doing hand turning? Is that just a practice and a skill thing, or are there templates or something else you're using? Or
yeah, it's just a practice and skill. I don't use any templates. It was basically trial and error for months and months and months on end. This is just a normal box that I would have lying around. These would be what would be considered rejects for me. So
okay.
I learned by making mistakes over and over and over again until I just perfected it. So I can just replicate them by eye. I can do them the exact same size and shape. I get it within half a mil every single time. So it's just skill.
It's very cool. It's very cool.
Have you got one of your completed, polished pens that you could just show in comparison next to the one that you've just done?
Yeah, just be a second. I'll go get some completed pens over here. So that's what a completed pen looks like beside unfinished blank.
Cool. Thank you.
I'm really intrigued on what this feels like. I mean, does it feel similar to a Homo sapien lava kind of finish, or?
Yes, it would be. It would feel as slick and as soft. It might not be as stain resistant as the Homo sapiens. I think the Homo sapiens is treated with a special type of resin that will basically make it completely watertight. But my concrete pens, they would be slightly absorbent because I use a natural beeswax sealant, so it's not completely waterproof.
You also looked at ceramics for making pens of.
Have I ever looked at it?
Yeah.
Um, I have, and that would be taking things to the next level.
Right, sure.
Drilling into ceramics is incredibly difficult. You'd have to
Okay.
use diamond or some type of water jet technology. It wouldn't be easy to do at all.
Right, right.
So I'm going to show you some of the work I do on lasers. So I have some copper pens here prepared. So I'm going to get my laser set up, and I'm going to show you how to laser etch a copper pen.
Just so that you're aware, Ben, there's quite a lot of excitement in the chat at that last image. A lot of people are stunned that you look like you're about to engrave probably something like a Hokusai Great Wave.
I am, yes. That's exactly what I'm about to etch. Sorry about this. It's just going to take me a second. So there's a fair bit of preparation involved for every single laser etch. So it does take me a few minutes of setup every single time.
Is your eye protection laser resistant then? Presumably that's got a laser filter on it, is it?
These ones, they don't actually have any resistance to the
Sorry.
laser. But I do actually have, I put some cardboard up now. I've learned my lesson a few too many times now.
Okay.
I've actually burnt my eyes a couple of times with this
Ouch,
laser.
that sounds really sore. All in the pursuit of perfection. Amazing.
Love it. Cardboard. Yes.
What sort of laser is it then? What laser is it? How does it work? So what frequencies and power?
So it's called a fiber laser. So this is a 30-watt fiber laser. It's a very precise laser. It can only etch about 150 mil by 150 mil. So the area of etch is quite small, but in that small area, it's quite powerful. and very, very detailed, which is exactly what I need for doing pens.
Andrew, it sounds like you have a question in the background. Do you want to shout that out?
You're mentioning that you're looking into upgrading your laser. Would it still be within laser technology which you're upgrading, or have you considered other forms of etching as well?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, you can get other forms of CNC etching tools out there. So would you ever consider, for like deeper engraving, utilizing something else?
I don't think so. I'm pretty happy to continue using the lasers the way I've been using them. I don't think I'll invest in any other forms of laser engraving or any kind of engraving technology.
So what are you hoping to upgrade to next?
So at the moment, my laser is only good for eating into metal, but with the right type of laser, you can actually change the color of the surface of that metal. It's selective anodizing. It's called a MOPA laser. So if I had a titanium pen, I could in theory do completely colored patterns over its surface. So my plan is to get the type of laser that will allow me to be able to do that.
Wow, that's impressive.
Very cool.
That will really, I think, open up quite a lot of possibilities, I should imagine.
I think Joe Matthews says, do you ever have assistants? That sounds like it might be an offer.
So I'm nearly ready to start laser etching here. Okay, I'm nearly ready.
Amazing.
So I have to turn the pattern upside down, but this is how it's done.
Okay. What kind of resolution is that printing at then?
0.001 millimeters. So,
Okay. So
very,
really,
very tiny.
really fine detail then.
Yeah, you could 600. So that came out wonderful. Can you read that?
Doesn't quite project on our screens. It's a little bit pixelated on mine. I don't know what other people are finding.
What I'll do is I'll take some better images of this later on,
Sure.
and I'll show you how it looks.
That's now a great wave printed onto a pen, I guess, is it?
Yeah.
Wow.
It is. It'll all make sense in
That's
a few minutes.
very, very cool. And will you repeat that pattern on the barrel, or is that going to be different on the barrel?
It'll be something different on the barrel. So I'm just going to give this a quick polish.
Okay. So, question from Ros while you're polishing on your flagship model, you have little jewels in the caps and cap ends. Just wondering how you get them in there.
So they're actually, them little holes are cut in using tiny little 3mm end mills, and that leaves it with a flat bottom. So what I do is I put a tiny little dollop of epoxy resin, just a tiny little drip of epoxy resin, and the glass beads stick to the epoxy resin very, very well. So that's how they're kept in place.
Very cool. Oh, that's polished up. Yeah, so with the polish, you can actually see it quite clearly.
Nice and nice contrast now.
There we go.
I'll give it a better clean later on, and we'll all come together.
That's pretty cool. If you're able to take a few pics to post people, I'm sure they would love to see that.
Yeah.
So, for the benefit of those watching, is this a new design that's going on the website? Is there something about this? What's the situation with this? Because there's a lot of people are asking in the thread, like, how do we get one?
So this will be a one-off pen. So I'll never do this pattern ever again, and there'll be some text written on this pen in a minute. I'll show it on screen in a second. I think it'll all make sense then. Just give me a second.
Sure.
Turning into a suspense thriller.
It is,
From
isn't it?
documentary genre to suspense.
I also want to know about that leg coming in from the top left.
A leg.
There's like a ballet dancer's foot or something on the top left of our screen, like a white thing above the wall on your.
Oh yes.
Is there a story?
This.
That's the one.
Yeah, that's a silhouette of a ballet dancer. Yes, you're right. Correct. So, my landlord, he does a lot of interesting sculptures, and that was a silhouette for a sculpture he was doing a few years ago. So that's what you're seeing there.
Very cool indeed.
So this is the next thing I'm gonna be etching on.
Okay. This will be the barrel, is it? Or
Yeah.
great. Oh, that's interesting.
Can you read that?
Can you? Yeah. Do you want to read that? Do you want to read that one out just to be on the safe side? But that is projecting clearly.
So that's Gravitas pens, made for ink, FP UK. Secret Santa Alphabet Game winner 2021. So this will be etched onto this pen. And so this will be a 1-of-1 pen. So this will be one of the top prizes for the alphabet game. So you want to explain that a bit better?
Yeah,
there,
so
Jim?
we were hoping that Rob would be able to join us with this. So those of you who know, Rob Delaporte runs Made for Ink. So it was Rob's choice to put the Hokusai Great Wave on a pen made by Gravitas. And those of you that have been watching the forum closely over the last month or so will have seen us gradually using the hashtag of #alphabet game. So everyone who is on the forum who's taken part in the Secret Santa this year will have already received a deck of cards, and you are now free to lift the embargo on those cards, guys. If you go to the FP UK forum, on the announcement section, there is now a pinned post that explains the rules. The idea of the alphabet game is simple. You have 26 cards, all of the same letter. Between now and the end of January, either face-to-face or by letter, you are to exchange your cards to create a complete alphabet. So if you have the letter J, you'll have 26 of them today. And by the 30th of January, the intention is you try to get yourself a full set of A to Z by writing letters, swapping cards, having pen meets, whatever you want to. Some simple rules. You're not allowed to post on the forum widely what letters you've got, but you can post on the comments thread if you follow the rules carefully. The first person to post a completed alphabet as a photograph on the forum wins the pen that Ben has just engraved for us, as well as a matching foil notebook set from Made for Ink and the overwhelming respect of everybody on the forum, of course. Now, those of you that haven't been part of Secret Santa, do not despair. We are putting up for grabs 26 places for people who weren't part of Secret Santa on a first come, first served basis to be drawn out in 7 days' time. So those that were part of Secret Santa get a 7-day head start on you. If you want to be part of it, you need to look at the forum closely. Rob will do a draw for 26 other members who weren't Secret Santa to take part, and you can then also take part to win the prize. Hopefully everyone's heard that and understands. Fingers crossed. So Ben's just doing the final details of the pen, but that's the game, guys. So our little Christmas present to you is this pen will never be reproduced. It is a 1-of-1 special edition from Gravitas. It's their Century model. And that comes with presumably a standard nib of their choice, Ben, is it as well?
Yeah, any nib that they want.
Any nib. There you go.
And
so those of you that did Secret Santa, dial into the forum now. You'll see an announcement that was released at about 20 minutes ago, explaining the rules of the game. And those who didn't take part in Secret Santa, there are 26 slots up for grabs, so there should be the opportunity for other people to play. And yeah, it's just a chance to kind of get people chatting, make some friends, and win a frankly fucking awesome prize at the end of it. So yeah, any questions on that? Brilliant.
Can I throw in a little thing?
You can, Noah.
Okay, I haven't participated much this year, so what everybody's doing is awesome. Can I just throw in that whoever wins that pen can also get a free regrind of their choice from me?
Oh, that is really kind. Thank you. No, that's amazing. Absolutely amazing. So there you go. Icing on the cake as well. There you go, guys. If you haven't been involved with Secret Santa, keep an eye on the forum. There is a chance to play for this prize. And there you go. Not only the beautiful pen and the books, but also a regrind from one of the best nibmeisters in the I think we'd all agree that Noah is an unsung hero of nib work, really. Amazing. Folks, have you got other questions? Have you got other questions for Ben or about anything that Gravitas is doing or anything that you want to chat to Ben about? I think, Ben, is there anything that you want to add?
No, if you just want to ask me any questions about anything at all, any upcoming projects or anything, fire away. Just ask away if you want.
I mean, I think certainly everyone would be interested to know what's the next few months hold for Gravitas. What releases have you got coming up? What things should we be saving our pennies for, or our pounds, more likely?
So I am branching out into some more of the expensive exotic materials like we mentioned earlier, like Damascus and Moki Megane. And I will also be moving into working with polymers. So my first adventure there is going to be the Dowlerin pen. And what's going to follow after that shortly will be the Dowlerin feeds and housings. And I'm also going to be doing a lot of Cerakoted pens, so a lot of completely purple pens or completely orange pens. And the first one you're going to see is it's going to be the Arashta, and that's going to be coming out hopefully actually before Christmas.
Sorry, say that again. The first one we're going to see is the
Arashta. Arashta is just Irish for orange, so I just decided to call it the Arashta pen. But
amazing. Amazing.
that's going to be my first pen in the Cerakote, full Cerakote pen series.
Incredible. So I think those of us that keep an eye on your Instagram feed, we've seen some images of the Delring prototypes, and they look absolutely incredible. And those bright coloured pens are just going to absolutely pop in the spring as well. They're just incredible, really. I'm certainly a huge fan of Cerakote. My Cerakote is one of my favourite pens. It's absolutely brilliant. So I think that's a really exciting material. People are asking about custom laser engraving, coated nibs, concrete fountain pens. That seems to be coming up over and over again. And then the other question is, can you tell us about your flex nibs?
Yes. So which question will I answer first there?
Take your pick.
Ask me one of them again.
Okay, will you be doing any custom laser engraving? Not of the Great Wave, I should add.
I don't generally do custom engravings unless it's a very, very special job. But generally I'll do batches of patterns. I'll release a batch, but I don't very often do one of one. So the fact that I'm doing a one of one now at the moment, that does make it fairly special. So it's not very often that I do this.
No, I think all of us agree it was a beautiful. I didn't say anything during your talk, but actually when you showed that image on the screen, the chat went crazy. People were absolutely blown away by the idea of it. It's a very, very beautiful design. Jose, I'm sorry, you've got your hand up. Go for it.
Any collaborations with someone else close to you that you want to talk about?
Sorry, say that again.
Any collaborations with someone else close to you in your same city that you want to talk about?
Yes. So I will be doing offering custom grinds on my nibs going forward. So on the members section of my website, there will be slowly options becoming available for, say, I might do very, very limited runs of special edition pens, and you'll only be able to get them if you're a member. And also we're planning on offering custom grinds for a certain fee, and that will all be done by Jose, the man himself in Dublin City. So that will be starting in January.
Fabulous. So
I didn't know anything about this at all.
So custom grinds are coming. That's great news. That's really great.
Yeah.
There were some other questions. Whether how do we get into the members area of your website? Is that a thing?
I have it all done. I just can't remember the password to get in myself. When I do remember it, I'll let you know.
What else have we got? We've got how are you going to cope with the demand for your pens? That's actually a really great question.
So when it comes to demand, I'm trying to get to the point where I can actually employ somebody to work alongside me. The hardest part is quality control when we're packaging pens. So if I had a second pair of hands, that would speed things up.
Jo Matthews already volunteered tonight. She said she'll come over and do it for free. That was right, Jo, wasn't it?
You can start tomorrow. Yeah. So it's all about yeah, being able to package things quickly enough. I can get as many pens ordered in. It's just getting the pens out.
Yeah,
So
absolutely, absolutely,
it's slowly becoming too much of a chore for me to be able to do all on my own.
absolutely, absolutely. What about
And the darn postal system, of course. I think my pen took forever. It wasn't your fault. It was the postal. Is that resolved now?
Yeah. So OnPost is a lot better. Well, you see, they were doing it for a protest. The postal service was still pretty good. They just deliberately held off on sending certain packages. You see, once it hits Royal Mail, it's actually quite quick. But the time it would take them to just hand it over to Royal Mail was just weeks and weeks. So they were never bad at shipping. They were just very lazy about when they were shipping.
Yeah, and postal issues are a disaster, really. Are there plans to come into a so currently your model is direct sales. Is there a plan currently to go via distribution? Is that still going ahead, or?
I don't know about distribution yet. I might just directly work with shops. Because I'm only doing this a year, I don't know if it's if it's too big of a jump to go into distribution straight away.
Right.
Maybe I'll do it a bit slower where I work with selected retailers, and if I get to the point where I feel that I should do distribution, then I'll look at that further down the line. But the plan is to go retail, but it'll be selective who I'm going to be working with.
Amazing, amazing. What are you most proud of? I mean, you've done a lot. You've done a lot in a really short time. You know, when you think about your journey between early 2020 and late 21, you've released 5 different lines of fountain pen alone. You've introduced, I mean, hundreds of people to the brand. You've reached out to tens of countries around the world. It must be tens, if not maybe even hundreds now. But what's your biggest? What for you? What's your biggest achievement? What are you most proud of?
Well, earlier in the year when I got very sick, be able to come back from how sick I was, to be able to even do maths again was a huge thing for me. I think that's my proudest achievement this year, was being able to come back to work this quickly, because I shouldn't have been able to do it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I was very, very sick. So.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we know. I certainly know. I certainly know. Anyway, we chatted, but yeah, I agree. Your return to work was phenomenal from that. So yeah, I think we all agree.
Yeah.
We all agree. So it's 8:20 to 9 nearly. If people want to unmute, if there are any more questions for Ben, we will. We'll take them open. What I'm going to do, I'm going to stop the recording now, and people, if you want to unmute yourself. Before we finish, Ben, I want to say thank you again. I mean, I consider you a good friend, but more than that, I think you're an absolute inspiration. What you do with fountain pens is just inspiring. It really is. The way that you're driving technology and precision and engineering and the things that you do. I mean, I don't take many pens to work, but I take Gravitas pens to work on a daily basis, and I think that I can't say anything more than that. They're brilliant pens, and I think I'm very grateful for what you do for the community and for what you do for Fountain Pens UK and for what you're bringing to the industry generally. So I mean, for me personally, thank you. From the whole group, thank you for sharing with us this evening, and for the incredible work you do for all of us, really.
Thanks, Jim. I better actually show you the last bit of laser, the last etch. Yeah. Oh, can you see this?
We can, yeah.
How willing?
If I've got this right, what's being etched on the pen now is the image that you saw on the screen. This will say Gravitas, made for ink, FPUK, Secret Santa winner, the other one. Is that right? I think that's right, isn't it? There you go.
Cool.
So that is beautiful, and that will get a full polish up, and that will obviously go out to the lucky winner sometime in the new year. So get your cards in the post, people, as soon as you can. What a beautiful pen! And for those that don't know, yeah, the Century pen, I mean, it's absolutely great. It's a really good pen, beautifully made, beautifully precise, very, very comfy in the hand. You know, for a heavy pen, you just wouldn't know it, would you? It's incredible, really.
No, you wouldn't. It's all about the balance. It's that was the winning combination with this pen is the low balance points because of the way it's sectioned. So
There you go. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. What I'm going to do, I'm going to thank you again, Ben, for a really interesting and entertaining talk. I'm going to stop the recording, but leave the meeting running, and obviously we can chat, and you can unmute yourselves. And this video will go on to hopefully on Pen Friends, you know, at some point in the next week or two. When Andrew, thank you very much for helping with that when you get the chance. So. A quick highlight for a quick thanks again to Ben, and a highlight tune back in tomorrow night, Saturday night, for Camille Yanong to talk to us about modern calligraphy and photography, which will be another really great evening, I'm sure. And in the meantime, get your alphabet game on, basically.